So I will proceed along and introduce to you. I've mentioned earlier that we have two coaches on the call, very qualified. Both of them have actively served in different posts. They've shown their commitment. They've proven a proven track record of their work, and they will be sharing their journey with us today. So allow me to introduce the moderator who will take up this conversation from here on. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you today's moderator, Coach Catherine Mturi-Wairi. She is a distinguished board leader, corporate governance expert, and a seasoned executive with over 25 years of experience. Catherine is best known for her leadership as the former managing director of the Kenya Ports Authority, where she oversaw one of Africa's most strategic logistics hubs. Today, she serves on the boards of several high-impact organizations, including Centum Investment PLC, CDI Bank, Centum Real Estate, Vipingo Development Limited, Moving the Goalpost, and World Reader, bringing deep insight into finance strategy and risk governance. She's a certified executive coach and an active member of key professional bodies as listed below: Institute of Directors, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants, and also Certified Secretaries of Kenya, Association of Women Accountants of Kenya, Kenya Institute of Management, and most importantly, Women on Boards Network. Catherine is also a founding member of Women in the Maritime Sector in East and Southern Africa, where she continues to champion gender diversity in leadership. So please join me in welcoming a powerhouse in the boardroom and a passionate advocate for inclusive leadership, Coach Catherine Mturi-Wairi. You can go ahead and put the claps emojis on the chat below as I let her on to take this conversation from here on. You're welcome, Coach Catherine.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Thank you for this introduction. Sometimes when this is read out, I don't believe it is me, but thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this conversation where we, as you've heard, we are going to talk about coaching, and why coaching now. I would want to start by looking at some questions that we had wanted you to respond to in a poll, but we have a bit of a technical challenge. So I'm just going to read them out and you can answer A, B, C, or D in the chat group. And then we're just going to sample them. So the first question is, in your view, what is the one major challenge in today's boardroom? In your view, what is the one major challenge in today's boardroom? So A, lack of alignment and trust among board members. B, resistance to innovation and change. C, limited diversity and inclusion at the leadership level. D, ineffective communication and decision making. Okay, I think the question has been typed in the chat. So very quickly, I want to do a sample of what you think the major challenge in today's boardroom is. Somebody has said D, ineffective communication and decision making. Somebody else has said B, which is resistance to innovation and change. Bernadette has said, what did Bernadette say? Bernadette said A, lack of alignment and trust among board members. There are two A's over there. There are a couple of D's, ineffective communication and decision making. So it looks like A and D are the main issues in the boardroom today. Lack of alignment and trust among board members, and D, ineffective communication and decision making. Okay, so what we are going to do now is very quickly dive into today's discussion. And I would like to introduce Dr. David Thuku, who is an associate coach with CDI-Africa Coaching Group. He is going to be our speaker today. And what I'd like to do very quickly as well is to read out his profile. I do not want to paraphrase lest I miss anything out. So allow me 2 or 3 minutes just to introduce Coach David. David is driven by a passion to catalyze positive impact in leadership practice across Africa through coaching and leadership development. He specializes in facilitating personal and team effectiveness, organizational transformation and culture change by empowering leaders to be their true, authentic selves in self-application and growth. David's practice is backed by over 3 decades of leadership experience. Some of you were not born at this time. He was a long-serving banking executive at Standard Chartered Bank, Barclays Bank, and Family Bank, where he was MD and CEO until 2018. In addition to serving on the ICF Kenya chapter board since 2020, David serves and has served on other boards for commercial, non-profit and educational organizations, including EcoBank Kenya Limited, Child Fund Kenya, and KCA University. He has coached leaders from various sectors, including finance, insurance, microfinance, manufacturing, quasi-government, NGOs, and research organizations in several countries across Africa. David holds a doctorate in business administration from the University of Liverpool, UK, Master in Business Administration from the University of Nairobi, Bachelor of Education from Kenyatta University, Postgraduate Diploma in Marketing and from the Marketing Institute of Singapore, Practitioner Diploma in Executive Coaching from the Academy of Executive Coaching, and Certificate in Systemic Team Coaching from the same academy. He is also an ICF credentialed professional certified coach, certified Hogan's Assessment practitioner, and certified Global Coaching Index practitioner. So now you see, I would not have paraphrased anything there. So with those introductory remarks, I would like to welcome Coach David to this webinar. Karibu, Coach.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Catherine, and thanks for that wonderful introduction. It's great to see very many people joining us, some whom I've worked with on different assignments, some who have engaged in projects in coaching and other related activities, some whom I see we sit on the same boards. So it's quite a mixture of people, and it's great to have all of you around. It's a space where I am outnumbered by the number of ladies in the room, but I have a few other colleagues, gentlemen, who have joined us. So, Catherine, as you pick questions, please also note the gentlemen and pick a few of them when it comes to question time. But it's a pleasure being here and also having this conversation with you, Catherine, being one of the people that we've journeyed along together. So I'm looking forward to this exciting conversation.
Asante sana, David. Okay, let's jump quickly into it. David, tell us, what does the new era of governance mean to you? And what are some of the biggest shifts happening in boardrooms today?
Thank you, Catherine. New era of governance. Allow me to start even a little further before I speak of the new era of governance and speak about governance generally, because new era then sort of brings forth a journey which is coming from an older generation to a new generation of governance. In its very simplistic form, I like demystifying governance as and just explaining it as the structures, the processes, the traditions that determine how things are done, how power is shared, how decisions are made, how people are held accountable, stakeholders are held accountable in an organization, in an institution, even in a country. So with that broad thinking about how power is shared, how decisions are made, how people are held accountable, you then see the shift that has come from in terms of governance and the boardroom conversations to where we are today. So the new era of governance has shifted away from the initial very traditional way of thinking of governance as really a fiduciary role only sort of outfit. where you are talking about the stewardship and compliance. And then increasingly, somewhere along the way, strategic thinking got put in along there, and the strategic role of boards became very critical, and shifting all the way to the more recent role of governance, which oftenly referred to as a generative role, where boards now, governance structures are becoming increasingly more responsible for framing problems, helping us prepare for the future. And all this is within the ecosystem of a very fast changing and complex world. So the new era of governance now is one that has to be ready to make decisions, share power in an era where it's a very volatile. It's, you know, the general VUCA thing that has become now so common speak. Now, how is power shared? How are decisions made within that environment? How are stakeholders being engaged? So the old traditional way of governing was around where people could just issue an instruction. The board could issue an instruction, or leaders could issue an instruction, and that is followed without questions. Today, you have a very different dynamic. The world is changing, the people you are managing are changing, the stakeholder expectations are changing. So the new era of governance has to be one that incorporates that, so to speak, a modern way of doing things, a modern way of dispensing with power, a modern way of engaging with stakeholders, a modern way of dealing with the generations that we are dealing with within the workplace, in the boardrooms and outside the boardrooms. So the new era of governance is really interconnected with today's complexity in the world in which this governance is being practiced. So today, boards must move away from the oversight to more of incorporating insight and more foresight into their thinking. And this is where, as I'm sure we'll get along, coaching then comes in very handy. Because it's not just about governance, it's not just about fiduciary responsibility and strategic thinking. There is a more generative aspect of it. There is more the question of asking, are we helping this institution to think well about itself today and about its future?
Okay. Excellent. So having said that and setting the context for what the new era of governance is all about, so why is coaching now becoming more important in leadership and governance spaces, especially in the boardroom?
Thanks, Catherine. Let's demystify coaching. I see a lot of the people on the call are coaches, and let's just demystify coaching so that way we see the linkage between where it's becoming more important in my thinking in today's world. Now, coaching is premised on our belief that everybody can figure themselves out. They have answers to these complexities. As the world becomes more complex, the solutions will lie with many more people beyond just the chairman of the board or the board members or the CEO. So today, boards face very many new and emerging challenges, as we've said, because of the complex world in which you're operating in. There is a complexity of the multiplicity of generations in the workplace that the boards have to think about, the leaders have to think about. Now, there is a high expectations from stakeholders. There is the need for emotional intelligence, for agility, for leaders and those sitting in the boardrooms. Now, coaching being premised on that understanding that everybody has what it takes to figure themselves out, and moving away from making decisions for people to facilitating people to a level where they can make decisions on their own, then coaching helps in several ways. One, coaching has a lot of self-awareness and emotional intelligence inbuilt into the processes that coaching thrives on. And you create that awareness in the new world that people can actually figure themselves out. Whatever challenges the organization is facing, creating that or raising that self-awareness, coaching helps with that. The other thing that coaching does is facilitating communication and dialogue within boardrooms and conflict resolution. As the world becomes very complex, some of the things that become very common in boardrooms is people just sometimes talking to each other as opposed to having conversation where people are listening to each other, assimilating what different people are saying. So coaching helps in creating that capacity for people to have dialogue, meaningful conversations. And conflicts that arise are then resolved in a way that accommodates the fact that everybody has a view, and that view is important for decisions to be made. The third thing which I may mention about coaching is that it supports the creation of adaptive leadership that adapts to the very changing environments, leadership that is agile, leadership that has clarity of vision, leadership that has clarity of the things that they need to be clear about. Because coaching starts somewhere with a belief that we'll get somewhere. And the person who engages the coaching mindset in the boardroom then brings into all this thinking. So boards don't just now need to process information. They increasingly are becoming more facilitators of conversation. They are becoming more facilitators of creative thinking. That is why then coaching is becoming much more talked about in leadership, in boardrooms, as we move along.
Excellent. There's something that you have mentioned, self-awareness. Please speak a little bit more about self-awareness and emotional intelligence in the boardroom.
Very good question, Catherine. One of the things that I have observed over time is the level of an awareness that many people have, including people that you'd imagine would not be unaware. What does that mean? Because of the very demanding nature of within boardrooms, there are people who are not even aware that when they are in a situation of intense pressure, they behave inappropriately. You've seen people shouting obscenities at very senior levels. You've seen chairmen of boards banging tables and saying things that are inappropriate. You've seen boards chairmen who, in a board meeting, the only voice you hear is their voice. And they are very unaware of that. They like listening to their voice, so they'll keep on speaking, not knowing that their role in the board is really facilitative. Now, one of the things with coaching is that coaching helps you to learn to listen. So with the awareness that left to my own devices, I can speak the whole day. When I'm ignorant of that, I will be seeing people, and then depending on how the culture of how power is shared in that organization, if the top person, when they speak, nobody else speaks, guess what? They will all be shaking their heads as if you are flowing, but nothing is happening. You are just repeating yourself and people clapping for you. So as a board chair, if you're the board chair in that case, if you are unaware, you may continue dancing naked and everybody's cheering you that you are dressed in a very nice robe. And because they are cheering you on as chairman, you'll continue embarrassing yourself. And it's only after they leave the meeting when they are taking a cup of tea that they'll now have the real conversation. So that self-awareness becomes very important. Emotional intelligence is also something that is very important as a concept in the boardroom. And we are all human, we have emotions. our board colleagues have emotions as well. The members of management who are making presentations to us are humans, they have emotions. But how we behave with those emotions is very important, that we are aware that, yes, they were given to us for various reasons, but one of the reasons is not to show the extent you can get excitable in a boardroom and bang tables and shout obscenities. Now, that level of awareness is very important, because I'm sure, Catherine, in your life, you can see pictures of board chairs who believe the more obscenities they shout, the more results they get. And the more they show how angry they can get, the more the results will come. So that awareness, and that just awareness of the way my emotions are, and even when emotions rise for other members, how do I also manage those emotions, also becomes important for me as a board member, as a board chair, as a committee chair, or even as a member of management, because here we have people who are actively engaged in executive leadership as well on the call. How that is managed then becomes very important in the modern boardroom. And even at home, even as a parenting level, if you take your structure, if your home structure as a governance structure, and you're also talking about how decisions are made, how power is exercised in that context, that conversation is also valid even as a simple structure, as a home structure.
It's very interesting that you say that. I have been in boardrooms where it's not about the chairman, but the directors. Some of them come in, they have not read their board packs, and they start asking questions. And you can actually see management is really hard pressed to say it's on page 10, open page 10, you'll see everything, you know. So that self-awareness is so important. It is so key for you to be able to read the room. Yeah, to be able to read the room. And I can see how coaching, even for me, how it has helped me in the boardroom.
Actually, you've mentioned that reading the room, especially for the chair, because that dynamic is very real. There are some of your board members who will have come, they have not read the papers. You can see others have read and even underlined and everything. And you can, with insight, you can see the struggles management is going through. So as a board chair, then you have the emotional intelligence to be able to how to navigate that and make the wise decisions that doesn't embarrass your board members, but at the same time gets the management team to be able to facilitate the conversation and also find a way of communicating to your board members intelligently and wisely that it is important to read the board packs. Otherwise, these people spend a lot of time preparing these papers, and you cannot just be coming here to just ask a question on something that is actually well covered on the next point.
Very true. So in this case, we can say that coaching works for both the directors in the boardroom as well as management, because as management comes into the boardroom, they should also be able to read the room and understand how they are going to navigate their directors and their lack of reading or whatever questions they're asked.
Very true. As a common saying that has now become, everybody involved in governance, in leadership and management, you actually wonder how you survive without coaching in the toolkit. Because as you rightly say, everybody needs to have the sort of skills that coaching then helps you have to be able to navigate that ecosystem.
Okay. Are there any other challenges that leaders face today in the boardroom?
Yes, there is a whole range of issues that people face today in the boardroom. One is just the capacity to be able to create trust. Trust between management and the board is a very, very big dynamic. And it's a challenge that actually within the training of a coach, one of the things that you do is to get sufficient training of how to create trustworthy and psychologically safe environments for conversations. So trust is a big challenge in the boardroom as well. Communication is a big challenge as well, because people are different levels. People are seeing things from different perspectives. People have different agendas. The other thing is just knowledge of what the different respective roles are. There are some boards where you find board members sometimes getting too much involved in the day-to-day details, operational activities of the management. So just lack of distinction between their roles as governance entities and getting enmeshed in the day-to-day administrative aspects of the business, and so on and so forth. So there's quite a number of different things. And then also just not fully taking the responsibility of preparing entities for the future. So there's a challenge of today, and that today is changing so fast, but the future is even more uncertain. Now, if boards get lost in the day-to-day administrative aspects, or just the fiduciary responsibilities, as I said, then they lose the opportunity to then keep challenging management and supporting them to configure the organization for the future.
Interesting. Can you share a practical story or an example of how coaching influenced decision-making or leadership behavior in a boardroom?
Yeah, I have many, and I have many from before I started sitting in boardrooms on the governance side. I had obviously sat in boardrooms on the management side, so I see this boardroom conversations from two perspectives. And as I said, I sit on a couple of boards. I chair some of them. I chair some of the committees. And the question you've asked is actually my daily experience, trying to influence things on the go. And I see my coaching coming in very handy in a lot of those conversations. Remembering that coaching is about getting to a certain outcome that is desirable. I've seen some conversations in the boardrooms where I can see people pulling for selfish interests. And just with a few questions, I get people moving in the direction where they're having their open conversation. That's one thing. The second thing is where people have something that should be addressed, but they are not addressing it. There's an elephant in the room, but nobody wants to name the elephant in the room. So you have a situation where I'm trying to make sure that I see some of the people which boards I sit on, but I don't want to let out any.
Yeah.
So I'll be a bit generic but specific to the same extent from a concept perspective. Having courageous conversations in the boardroom, you have some aspects of the board that is not possibly performing well. Even say a committee within the board, you have a committee where you see this committee is not pulling its weight. And you are the board chair. Part of the reason, part of the things that I insist on boards that I sit on is to have a very structured board evaluation processes. At every end of the year, we are having a very structured evaluation of how we are performing. There's somebody whose microphone needs to be muted.
Somebody's microphone needs to be switched off, please.
So board evaluation, whereby every year we take stock of how we are doing. How is each committee doing? How is the chair doing? How is each board member doing? Now, that is not something that everybody welcomes with a bouquet of flowers, because it means shining torches to every aspect of the board. And I wear my coaching hat to know that feedback is very important. It's important to hear, to have the open conversation with each other that we are doing well here, we are not doing well here. And from the evaluation, many boards do evaluation, but that's as far as it goes. You get the evaluation done, and then after that, a report is issued. And then the next time you see that report is when you are doing the next evaluation. And if you invited the same person, they'll say, this is what we found last year. We still have the same thing. So as a coach, one of the things I do is to make it my business to make sure that if we have an evaluation this year, then next year, we should work on whatever came out of that evaluation. That's the only way to keep improving as a board. So next year we improve, we work on specific things, and we pick a few things. You don't try to boil the ocean, as the consultants say.
Yeah.
You basically just pick a few things, address this one this year, and hold yourselves accountable. Accountability is an integral part of coaching. Hold yourselves accountable as a team that by the end of the year, we'll have done this. So board evaluation in terms of quality of decisions, board evaluation in terms of quality of discussions and conversations, preparedness, what we are discussing earlier, people reading board packs and so forth. So that's one area where I find that works very well. And the other one is in situations of conflict.
Hello? Have we lost David, or is it me?
Well-structured conversation.
I think I lost you. I don't know if it was you or me who went off.
We lost him for a while.
Or we lost you for a while. Okay. Okay, it's fine. Continue.
Is he back now?
You're back.
I was talking about him in third person just to be sure that, yeah. So I was saying that, where did you lose me, Catherine?
No, hardly half a second, 2 seconds.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So I was talking about the board evaluation and following through that, and also situations of conflict where you need to have courageous conversations. I find me wearing my coaching hat, being able to have courageous conversation in a professional way in boardrooms.
Okay. Okay. We've talked about coaching and what happens in boardrooms. David, what inspired you to become a coach? And how did your journey unfold?
Wow, it's a long journey.
Okay, shorten it.
I got into coaching a long time ago. I think, how did I get into coaching? I got into coaching as I was struggling to answer my question of what next after my years in banking, because I had a career in banking, as I've shared with most people. But there came a time when I was trying to figure out what next, and I can shape my journey in 4 phases. One was just that space of trying to figure myself out. The epiphany moment of when I got exposed to coaching, trained for coaching, and then started practicing in-house as an in-house coach, and then eventually as a full-time coach. I managed to branch off much later and become a full-time coach. And within that journey, that was more than 15, 16 or 17 years ago is when I was doing that training. I did the training, and then after that, I was practicing as an in-house coach from the time I trained when I was still a banker, and then eventually as a full-time coach, round about 7 years ago is when I branched out from employment to doing this on a full-time basis.
Any mistakes or lessons learned during this journey?
I think one key lesson for me, and maybe tied to that, the mistake, is trying to do everything and trying to be everybody, everything to everybody, is one of my key lessons over the last few years that I've practiced. The more you know where you add value, I think the more I've grown, the more I've realized, the more value you're able to add. The more focused, the more clinical you are in terms of where your area of specialty is, the better for you. When you branch off as a coach, it's easy to want to do everything. Anybody who comes around your way, you pick them up and you offer coaching to them. Along the way, I have ended up being very specific on, I coach first strictly on the continent. I don't go outside the continent. Two, I coach leaders at senior executive level, and I don't try to do other things. If I get somebody who is looking for something else, I will be able to channel them to somebody else. So I don't do, say, student coaching. It's not something that I've built capacity on. Before I could take on that, but with time, I've become more focused and more intentional in my choice of clientele. The other thing that I think is important is to also answer the question of why I am doing coaching. What drives me to do coaching? Getting that question answered to oneself becomes very important. And for me, when I was thinking about what I'll do after coaching and what drives me and what I want to do, is really figuring out how I can be able to help leaders on the continent to become better leaders, how to help people within the governance structures to be better, to hold themselves accountable to a higher standard, and basically just optimizing the potential that sits on this continent and exploited. That's really what drives me. So when one gets to know what is it that is driving you, what you want to focus on, then it becomes easier for you.
That makes a lot of sense, because I remember when I was doing this diploma, the coaching diploma, you asked us, why do you want to do this now? And when I sat and really thought about it, I came across this Japanese word, ikigai. And for me, it was finding my ikigai. What is it that I love to do? What is it I'm passionate about? And on this other side, it can earn me something. So in as much as I'm doing something that I love, it is also bringing in an income. So I think the why of it is very important to know as a person. Absolutely. Well, having said that, what advice would you give somebody aspiring to coach at the executive or board level? And what key skills or mindsets should they begin to develop now? And I'm asking this question, I would want to you to focus on women, because you're talking to women predominantly. And more often than not, we are accused of being abrasive and aggressive and, all those negative words. What would you advise the women who are aspiring to become coaches? I'm aware there are men on the webinar, but I would like for David to focus on the women for now.
That's perfectly okay, and a very good question. Somebody aspiring to get into coaching at this point in time, sometimes advice is given and becomes very heavy. So I'm just going to give 2 points just so that it remains focused. I would advise anybody who is thinking about coaching to think about, number 1, their level of self-awareness. And we alluded to some of it here. That question of who am I? And that's where you have a very honest conversation with yourself. And part of what you will say is, I am a young or middle-aged woman or man. I have this set of experience that I've gathered over time. I have grown in this sort of ecosystem where I was cultured this way. I am this person who is very passionate about ABCD. So you really take time to ask yourself who you are, who am I? Now, the minute you understand who you are, then don't try to change yourself to somebody else. So if you're a woman and you want to become a coach or even to become a board member, you want to become a leader, then you do it as a woman, as a man, as a middle-aged man. And the reason for that is because you are better off doing stuff as yourself. So that's question number one. Who am I? What drives me? And also, when you are talking about your self-awareness, ask yourself the question, what am I seeking at this phase of my life? Because we pursue different things at different points in time. What is making me even want to pursue coaching at this point in my life? What is relevant to a middle-aged man on the African continent may be very different from what one is seeking as a slightly older citizen lady in a different context. So that's the first thing. Take time to ask yourself those hard questions and have the courage to answer them and have the courage to reflect on what comes out of that. The second thing, ask yourself, what do I believe about others? Because coaching, remember, we believe in others' greatness. There's an exercise I generally ask people, and I tell them to complete the sentence. People are generally dash, dash, dash. And if you take a plain piece of paper and without thinking, complete that sentence with whatever comes to your mind first, before you are polluted with what I'm about to say next, then you have a way of figuring out what your default setting about others are. So for example, people write on that piece of paper, people are generally warm and nice and mean well. People are generally creative. People are generally lazy. People generally cannot be trusted. Whatever you write there informs your default perception. And for you becoming a coach, it captures the journey for you. If you believe people are generally cannot be trusted, people will generally not want to do the right thing until they are coerced to do so, then the journey is further than somebody who believes people are just such wonderful creations of nature, how I can convert them to their full potential. So having a very evaluative perspective of yourself, including your view of how you view others, gives you a foundation. Now, when you think of yourself as a lady and you are thinking of yourself as a coach, you ask yourself, what are the natural dispensations that have God just gave me free on account of the gender in which he gave me? As a man, because I'm sure there are also men on the call, what is it that God gave me? And God gave us those natural gifts just to help us navigate through life. And as coaches, we believe we are equipped to navigate through life. So there are those things that we're just given for free. So as a lady, I know God gave me a higher sense of intuition than he may have given my male counterparts. Yes, he may have given my male counterparts more aggression, more pomp and everything, and more ego and more punch. But I've got more intuition. I've got more latent power to be able to shift conversations in a boardroom, and I'm okay to practice it that way without trying to shift myself and maybe apply an abrasive approach to how I manage myself in the boardroom. And how do I develop capacity to feel well-grounded, well-secure as a coach, as a board member, as a leader, despite the fact that I'm a lady, without feeling the need to be anybody else than myself? So that self-awareness becomes very, very important. And you cannot run away from yourself and you cannot hide yourself. the rest of it is now the technical training of the skills and everything. But in terms of foundational questions to ask yourself, those two questions, then reflect on them. And then after that, you can now pick the conversation of what is my pathway then to becoming a coach.
So basically, we must bring our authenticity into the
Absolutely.
boardroom. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that makes a lot of sense.
Don't try to imitate anybody else. I do remember when I was a very young banker, I had a colleague who admired the CEO and wanted to mimic everything, including his walking style, the fact that he wore glasses, and poor guy, they both smoked, so he also adopted smoking just to look like him and be like him. Obviously, you cannot be somebody else. You can only be yourself. And coaching helps us to have the confidence and courage to work towards being the best version of ourselves. So the starting point for me, for anybody aspiring to be a coach, think about yourself, think about your perspective of other people, and that's a good starting ground.
So up to there, we know about what coaching is all about and the type of person and the type of mindset that we need to have to become a coach. What does the pathway to becoming a certified coach look like? And what should new entrants expect?
Okay. Coaching is a profession, just like other professions, medicine, accountancy, lawyers, and so forth. And for any profession, and coaching is no exception to this, there are certain characteristics that define your journey to being one. The most basic one is just you have to go through a body of knowledge that helps you know the skills, the competencies, the general knowledge around that field. So the same with coaching. There is a body of knowledge that you have to go through in appropriate words, and I'll speak a little bit about that. The second thing that helps us fit within a profession is a code of conduct, a code of ethics. So as a coach, I must think about what that is. And I've spoken about a professional body. Most professions will have a professional body. Now, having said that, how do I get then, what is the journey like? The first starting point is to get training through a certified or a body that you are sure is going to train you properly to give you the right level of training. The reason for that is coaching, unlike the other professions like medicine, where you can't just walk up today and become a doctor or a lawyer. There are some certain regulations. Coaching, there's not much barrier to entry. Anybody can basically write on their profile, I'm a coach. And therefore, there are quite a number of coaches out there who are not properly trained. They are not professional, but they do call themselves coaches. For anybody wanting to become a coach, the first point of call is to identify a training school that will offer you the proper training for coaching. And I'm happy to say that CDI, that is part of what we do, coach training and development. And within that, we'll then be able to assimilate and acclimatize you with the code of conduct, the professional body which we subscribe to, which is the International Coaching Federation. And then we'll be able to take you through that. Then with the knowledge, then you start building the practice and growing as a coach, continuous development and growth. So the starting point is just getting the body of knowledge. What do you expect? You'd expect if you join the right school, then you'll be given the provided with the necessary support to become a great coach. And a starting point is normally going to the International Coaching Federation website, verifying that whichever school you've registered with is certified to offer that coaching, because there are some schools which offer coaching, but they are not certified to do so. But CDI is licensed and certified to do that professional coaching. And then once you do the basic knowledge, then you can start your journey of growth through the various levels of accreditation by the professional body. So that when you hear people talk of ACC, PCC, MCC, then it is that journey of growth within that journey of professional coaching. Sorry, is it me who is not hearing you, Catherine, or?
No, I think it muted.
Okay, now I hear you.
Yeah, it muted. Yeah. My question is, why should one consider a coaching certification now? Why now?
Yeah, there are two questions there. Why coaching certification? Coaching certification gives you credibility. As I've said, you differentiating who is a professional, who is a quack. The certification gives you that credibility in the market and gives you the confidence to be able to practice with the level of confidence of coaching that you need. Why now? Very important question. Here is the thing, coaching is an emerging profession. It's not yet crowded. Like every profession, I'm sure in the future it will get crowded. So now is the time to get in, because there is demand. There is still quite a lot of people who need coaching. On the continent in particular, we have a lot of demand now for coaching that is culture space, that is aligned to the way we do things. So why now? I think just because it's emerging and is a time that organizations are absorbing coaching, is a time is becoming very much in demand. So I think this is a time to get in before the place becomes crowded.
Okay. What final advice would you give to someone just starting their coaching journey and is dreaming about making a big impact?
Yeah, if I consolidate that to very simple advice, we spoke about it earlier, is the authenticity, finding your space, finding your voice, and just coaching as yourself. We have very many coaches, we do it differently, but find yourself and continue building on yourself. Don't try to be anybody else. The other advice is just around what we've spoken about, certification, being professional, continuing to raise your professional bar, certified, accredited, and then be patient. Just keep building your mastery. Trust yourself as a coach. Trust the process that you've been trained in. Trust your clients, they'll figure themselves out. And trust yourself. And that means investing in your own growth. So keep growing, keep challenging yourself, keep holding yourself to higher standards of the profession.
Excellent. So, ladies and gents, we've come to the end of our webinar. Now we would like to hear from you. What questions do you have for Coach David? I believe you can raise your hand and I will pick, or you can type in the chat box and I will read out the questions. Any questions, or you are all happy?
I see a hand from Benedict Mutuku.
Benedict, you can unmute yourself.
Hello,
and ask.
Hello,
Hi,
David.
Benedict.
Yeah, and it's nice to see you, Catherine. This has been very, very informative. I have a question for Coach David. I typed it here. How long does the certification training take? And are there different levels of certification? Or this is something you just do once, get certified, and that's it?
Yes, there are different levels of certification, Benedict, just like any profession. So you'll hear talk of level 1 certification, level 2 certification. So there are different levels depending on the question. We said, where am I doing this training? But luckily CDI is licensed and accredited to do the different levels of certification. It's an investment of a period of roughly around 6 months at the basic level to get yourself moving through that. But I'm sure the team on the call will be more than willing to provide more information. I see Wanjugu has put something on the chat about how you can register your interest. So there are several questions that would help then you curate what is it that you would want, depending on where you are doing it and so forth. But there are several levels, as you rightly ask, Benedict.
Okay, thank you.
Alan Kimani.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Thank you, David. I think a very informative session has given quite a good foundation for those of us who want to get into coaching. What my questions are I hope they're not too many, but one is linked to what are the future skills that directors need in this era of VUCA. So I've sat on IOD, by the way. I was there for like almost 10 years on the Institute of Directors Board. I think I may have interacted with Catherine during that time. So what are the future skills that directors need in a VUCA dispensation? The second one is difference between coaching and mentoring. And the third is the 3 top best coaching institutions in Kenya for one to be a certified coach. Thank you.
Okay. Let me start with the last one. Top 3 coaching institutions. Professionally, I'll be out of order to start because we are one of them. We are one of those top institutions. I can only talk about CDI in this context. I will be completely out of order to start talking about other institutions in this forum because it's a CDI forum.
Yeah.
But as I said, the best thing to do is if you go to the International Coaching Federation website, you can actually get the list of institutions. And if you search by country, you'll be able to then see what others you'll have in Kenya. So allow me not to start enumerating the different institutions and what you will get on that. Working myself upwards, coaching and mentoring, the primary difference is in terms of what a coach and what a mentor does. A coach illuminates the path and you walk together. You don't have to have done what the person has done. A mentor is one who has done it, will be sharing experiences. So you'll find that in a coaching engagement, the coach will tend to talk less than the coachee because they are helping the coachee figure themselves out, answer their questions, figure their roadmaps and follow them and hold them accountable to that. Whereas a mentor, on the other hand, has done it. So they'll be sharing their wisdom, they'll be sharing their experiences, they'll be hand-holding the mentee along that journey. So you'll find that the mentor will generally talk more than the mentee. The power dynamics as well. In a coaching engagement, it's a partnership between the two of you. The power is in the relationship between the two of you. And the coach is not more powerful in that engagement than the coach. You're just partnering to make sure that you move things forward. In a mentorship, the power dynamics is different. The mentor is a sage. And so there's much more power shift, or power is more to the mentor. And the other one is a faithful follower of the mentee is a faithful follower of the mentor. So in a nutshell, that I would say is a big difference. Now, talking of future skills that directors will need increasingly, I know if you look at that, you'll find things like emotional intelligence and so forth. But I personally say one of the things that the skills that you need is to be able to facilitate difficult conversations. Facilitate naming the elephants in the room and being able to deal with those elephants, because the elephants will be if you develop that as a skill, the elephant today will be very different in shape and form and structure from the elephant tomorrow. So today the issue may be a capital issue that needs to be discussed. Tomorrow it may be an existential issue, risk that needs to be discussed. But everybody else may be speaking about it, but we don't have the courage to speak it in the room. Or it may be just that we've got the chair is misaligned, and that's the elephant in the room. How do we get to align the chair? Now, those are the skills that whatever will help you to be able to do that, which is why I'm saying coaching then becomes a tool that helps you to navigate all that. Because with coaching, the level of awareness is heightened. You are able to read the room much more. You are more attentive. You're able to evoke awareness of other people. You're able to facilitate the growth of different stakeholders in the room. So coaching is definitely one of those that becomes very important as you go forward. And just the capacity to be able to facilitate tough conversations, conversations that will need to deal with elephants in the room when trust is not there, because there are sometimes when the trust quotient is 0 or negative, but nobody is talking about it. And remember, I spoke initially of governance as really the way we dispense with our power, the way we make decisions and so forth. Now, if trust is negative, then that's the elephant in the room. And it needs to be surfaced in a way that then doesn't bring blame game, but it facilitates resolution of whatever is bringing the mistrust. And that's not an easy conversation. So that's the sort of skills that you need at institution level, organization level, and even at national government institutions as well.
Alan, happy?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. The next
could also be checking in the chat. If there are any questions on the, and
yes.
Sharon, you could also help monitor that as well for us.
Yeah. Georgina? Is it FCPA Georgina Malombe, or this is another Georgina?
It is, Senior. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, and Mr. Thuku. I can confirm I'm an alumni actually of CDI, but I did take the executive coaching program, and one of the key takeaways actually that I even live up to, even as I continue coaching, is as you want it, of where anyone is and the environment around us. So I just wanted to say I'm an alumni, but also a question to Mr. Thuku. As we continue in this journey of coaching, which not many organizations actually have embraced, only the big corporates actually are embracing coaching, you realize most public sector institutions and a few NGOs are taking this up. Are there initiatives in terms of partnerships, stakeholder engagements that you're taking in the government spaces for them to undertake coaching? Because I do believe if you have to make an impact on coaching, then we have to look at the value chain from the top leaders. How do they even impact those that they're leading and those that they're leading and the middle management as we go down? Because unless we build that chain and a wide net, I still believe that coaching won't be a reserve for the few. So the question is, are you engaging stakeholders? Are you selling out as a key partner in this journey for us to have a better society, have better governance institutions, etc., etc.? Thank you.
That's a very good question, Georgina, and I hope you work in the public sector, because one of the things we actively do is try to seek out people, decision makers within the public sector who can be influenced to be able to see where the potential of coaching is within the public sector. As you rightly say, when coaching came here, 90s, early 2000s, it landed in the big multinationals, which were having coaching in their headquarters, and they were rolling it out to their subsidiaries down here. The big corporates here started noticing the value. We've got a few quasi-government bodies now, at least, that have started actively engaging with it. But you get the true value of anything when the whole ecosystem within the policymakers see the value. We spoke about the evolution of governance within the public sector. When you think of a board, how do we shift to that space where we are engaged with not just the fiduciary, the compliance, and the signing on the place where the allowance comes in and all that, to actually now the engagement. So we are very open to corporate entities, and we actually actively try to do that. But it's a big mountain to climb. And anybody on the call who is working within the public sector level at senior space where we can be able to have that conversation, will be more than willing. Because the minute we get there, then the level of an awareness can be lessened, and hopefully we can accelerate the pace of getting value of coaching across many more people within the public sector space. There are initiatives that that coaches in different shapes and form try to do, but public sector has been one of the biggest challenge to get the coaching concept embedded. But we are more than willing to partner with anybody on the call, and we can speak at any point. You can get in touch with us, and we'll be more than willing to expose that to the public sector.
Okay. There's a question here from Shilpa Shah. Many thanks. This is a very informative webinar. Most coaching institutes in Kenya are very expensive, although there are some institutes in Dubai, in brackets CTA, that offer similar programs at a much lower fee. How does one differentiate the various training from these institutions? I think it's about the cost.
Well, again, just like we had the question from Alan earlier, the question of cost, yes, I do agree that training as a coach is expensive, has been since the days I trained as a coach almost 20 years ago. For you to get quality training, then it's one of those where you have to invest commensurately. I don't want to speak about other institutions that may offer different prices, but the general steer I guide people, before you sign up for any coach training, please make sure that you validated the institution that purports to offer you the training, that it is certified to offer that level of training, and it's accredited by the ICF, so that you don't end up with a training, a certificate, a piece of paper, which then doesn't give you the credibility anywhere. The certificates you get, say from CDI, which I can talk with in confidence, is a certificate that you can use anywhere, because these are globally accredited institution by the International Coaching Federation. So that's the general steer I would offer in terms of wisdom. Because it's expensive, you would better invest with the right institution so that you don't waste resources. Okay. And then end up with a piece of paper, which is just nothing more than a piece of paper.
Okay, I hope that answers your question, Shilpa. Irene Mutiso has had her hand up for quite some time now. Yes, Irene, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Kim and Catherine for a very informative webinar. I am an executive coach accredited by AOEC UK. I trained with Career Connections in 2015. I've not been very, very active in coaching other than within the organization. And now I want to start really converting that knowledge and impacting on other people. Now, my question is, and I had earlier put it on the chat, where do I start? How do I become a member of your team?
Very good
And
question.
I know Kimani has said this before, that he is not here to discredit or credit any other institution, but I really would like to get some guidance. Thank you.
Thanks. That question was from Irene.
Yes,
Irene
please.
Motiso.
Thanks, Irene. Where do you start? In answer to that question, CDI offers a masterclass that really talks to that I'm a trained coach. I want to commercialize this. Where do I start? So there's actually a masterclass that CDI offers that answers that question as to how do I start now this journey. I trained, I invested, I want to commercialize. How do I go about that? That would be a good starting point to step in. The other one is obviously joining the ICF community. We have an active ICF community. We have an active ICF chapter here in Kenya, and that's a good space to plug in. Once you join the ICF Global, and having trained, as you say, with and certified, then you actually qualify to join ICF. Then you can plug into the community and plug into the local community here in the local chapter. But as I said, CDI specifically has a program that talks to that conversation, and you can, maybe Sharon, you can, I think you can share how somebody like Irene can get help.
Okay. Okay, one last question from Lena Munove.
Thank you, Catherine, and good evening to everybody on the call. Thank you very much for the telecon. It's been a very engaging session and a great facilitation that you've done, Catherine. Well done. And thank you also, Dr. David, for the great insights that you've shared. And you've been very eloquent. So it's been easy following the conversation. I had two questions. And the first one, I think you've just answered as you were speaking to Irene's query. I am also a certified coach. I did my training with the Career Connections, or AOEC, about 3 years ago. And I was wondering where to get, where to restart, where to restart from. And I think the information that's been given is quite useful. So I'll follow that through. My second question is to Dr. Thuku. May you share with us the greatest satisfaction that you get from coaching?
Thank you very much. The greatest satisfaction I get from coaching is seeing one leader move from point A to point B. And when I say that is any person I coach, I normally tell them I coach because I'm in a stage of life where I do what I do to cause the right impact. So my satisfaction, my fulfillment is when my client moves from point A to point B, and point A and point B being points that we identify with the client. And I tell my clients, if they are not coming to me with the seriousness to move from point A to point B, I welcome them to look for another coach, because there are many coaches who may offer that. So I am very particular with whoever I coach, that we must first of all agree that you have a big enough issue for us to engage with. And if you have, and you have the willingness, then we wrestle with it. And I also tell them, I don't take offense if after this conversation I never see you. And the reason for that is to talk to the point you've asked. What satisfaction do I get? When I see somebody who was very unsure of themselves, being very articulate, being very sure of themselves. When I see somebody who did not know how to apply themselves as a leader, applying themselves as a leader, and that trickling into the organization, that for me is where my fulfillment or satisfaction comes. It even becomes better when that is accompanied by a paycheck, but the paycheck is not necessarily what we want to see that shift. It is a shift in itself. And the reason I say that is because as a continent, we have a lot of catching up to do with the rest of the world. We have a lot of potential that we are wasting. We have a lot of resources that needs to be utilized. We have a lot of governance, leadership, and management that needs to happen so that the continent can be at the level where it's supposed to be, not as a continent that is used to balance off statistics or to lead in statistics that are not very complementary.
I can attest to that. I've coached a few people, and you can actually see the light bulb going on in their brains, the aha moment. Yeah. Sometimes somebody will say, actually, I am the obstacle. I am sabotaging myself. And when they come to that realization, you feel very satisfied. And they come to the realization themselves. You do not tell them that you are the problem. They come to that conclusion themselves. And from there on, then they are able to exploit their potential. So it's very satisfying to see that. Now, having said that, I think we have come to the end of our webinar. I must thank everyone for joining us today. It was a record number. And if for nothing else, I would do coaching just to get my self-awareness. That is so, so important just for you as a person, even if you don't do it for anything else. But of course, monetizing it is good. Yeah. So with those final remarks from me, I would like to hand over back to Sharon to conclude the webinar. Thank you. And thank you, David. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, and all the best to the people on the call.
Oh, Sharon, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Apologies. I'm here now. Thank you so much, Coach Catherine, Coach David. We are truly delighted about what you've offered. And I can see it on the comment section that more and more people are mentioning how informative this has been. I've been in this space for a while, and I for sure would say that you've all brought out yourselves fully and poured it to us, and we are grateful. So even as we finalize this conversation, I'd like to bring to the attendees' attention that we do have a form on the chat box. For those who are interested in being certified coaches, would be delighted to walk that journey with you. So kindly go ahead and fill in the form, and one of our team members will contact you. And to take, just to mention, Shilpa Shah, we've taken note of your request, and I'll be able to connect you with Coach David. You've mentioned that you'd like him to walk this journey with you, so I'll sure do so for you too. And this is it for me, that from self-awareness to accountability to growing vulnerability, the outcome of coaching is undeniable trust. So the place of coaching cannot be understated. So you're all invited to build your credibility through a coach certification program, gaining your certification, and then you'll be able to carve your niche and be part of this fast-growing industry. Thank you so much for choosing to join us today, and thank you for the many coaches, certified coaches who also joined this conversation, and we look forward to the great opportunities that are ahead of us.